Hello, Termites. How is everybody? I did order the t-shirts, and they've been paid for. I just don't know where they're at. I sent an email to the people, and hopefully they'll be here soon, so I didn't forget. Everything is in the works. Everything's a little slowed down, I think, though. What are we drinking, more importantly? This is really something when you come to Tennessee, Jack Daniel's White Rabbit. It's only available in Tennessee. A little sweeter, a little more expensive, not a lot. Definitely pick yourself up a bottle if you're ever visiting Nashville or anywhere in Tennessee and you're a Jack Daniel's person, or it's a lovely gift, I think, for the friend in your life who loves Jack Daniel's. Do you notice this? I have one in blue. Sometimes I wear that one. I bought these both at Target about 3 years ago. Should have bought more. And guess who the designer is? Mossimo. And guess who's going to Jailio? Mossimo. He's the husband of Lori Lough, whatever that mean lady is. And her, she looks very stern. She got 2 months in jail for her scheme. And you know what? I've spent longer in a reality show than that. So, yeah, I did. Last County Standing. We were locked up for like months. It was ridiculous. Yeah, no computers, no phones. Bullshit. Anyway, he did a good job designing this. If he had more of these, I would post his bail. But I think he has enough money. Anyway, Tanya's in Hawaii, her and her friend. As soon as I got there, I called Jim Neighbors home to see if he'd allow us to use his private beach for sunning. Jim was away, but luckily his house manager remembered me and gave us carte blanche to use the property. Now here's the weird thing. Me and my mom and dad and younger brother and sister once went to Hawaii, and we took the road to Hana in Maui, because that's where Charles Lindbergh's grave is. But really, you're just going for the drive on the road. It's awesome. But I thought Jim Neighbors lived up there, too, because I thought, wow, he really wants to get away from people. Because once you go up that road, you're like, well, everybody that lives up here must hate people, because it ain't easy. But I guess he lived in Oahu for a while, or maybe I was lied to. Maybe that's just some local bullshit, and they all going to think that I'm going to believe Gomer Pyle lives right up there in Hana, at the end of the road. We hired a cab and took off for Jim's place. We put down our blankets and lay there looking out at the waves. I got out a cassette player, strapped the earphones on my stomach, and then played a Julio Iglesias tape for Presley. Oh, I get it. She's playing music for the baby. I had a terrible crush on Julio Iglesias. Oh, my God. Okay. My friend Tim Wilkins, he's a funny comedian. You may have seen him open for me on the road sometimes, because he lives in Florida, so he does a lot of the Florida shows. But he was the opening act for Julio for a very long time. And I said, what was he like? And he said, well, he was fine, because my mom had a crush on him, too. He was really big with ladies that age. To other girls I've loved before. Remember that song? But he could never, with his accent, say Tim right. So when he would want him badly, Tim goes, all I would hear is this short man screaming, team, team, team. So that's now all I call everybody named Tim. Team. There you go. There's a little Julio story. I had a terrific crush on Julio Iglesias for a long time. Crush isn't the word, actually. I was hot for him. By then, I'd finally met him, and I saw he was almost my size. Yeah, he's short. In fact, I'm positive his head is smaller than mine. Well, maybe. I can't picture how big his head is. That kind of cooled me off. But I wanted my baby to hear beautiful music long before she was born. I couldn't think of a voice more beautiful or soothing than Julio's. Beautiful and soothing came to a screeching halt when Shirley and I decided to take a walk on the beach. Weird people and incidents seemed to pop up in my life at any given time. We were strolling along, just looking at the beautiful scenery and not talking. That's one thing I love about being with the T-Birds. We don't feel awkward about lulls in the conversation. I was looking at the beach, and Shirley had her head turned towards the ocean. All of a sudden, I spotted a man standing on the beach ahead of us. He was stark naked with his penis at full salute. My God, Shirley, don't look now, but there's a naked man over there, I whispered. Shades of Glenn Campbell all those years ago. Of course, Shirley's head jerked and turned right around. When she saw him, she was speechless. He had a lewd grin on his face, and he stood there staring at us. Even though we didn't make a move, we figured we better get gone. We better get gone. I'm going to start using that. I got to get gone. Where are you going, Kathleen? I got to get gone. We talked a little faster. Then we walked a little faster. Then we started trotting. By the time we got to Jim's house to call a cab and come get us, we were running at top speed, scared to death, but unable to stop laughing. When we got to the house, I stood there trying to catch my breath, and Shirley said, "Can you believe this?" "No," I said. "His thing is every bit as brown as the rest of his body." I guess he was a trespasser because later nobody seemed to know why he'd be running around naked on Jim's private beach. Well, if he's willing to just be naked anywhere, I doubt he cared about a no trespassing sign. He didn't even care about clothing. Nobody was home at Jim's, so we trudged back up on the beach to look for a phone. We saw a big estate on the top of the hill about a mile from Jim's and headed up there. The sign said open house, and there was a big new Mercedes in the driveway, so we walked up and opened the door. A very primly dressed woman looked at us very disappointingly. Shirley and I had on matching neon green bikinis and neon green thongs and big neon sunglasses. We were flat neoned out. And when Shirley realized how the woman was looking at us, she immediately got defensive. "Are you two brokers?" the woman said. Shirley misunderstood the question and said, "We most certainly are not hookers. This is Tanya Tucker." I was just dying. Here we were trying to have a peaceful afternoon at Jim Neighbor's beach when suddenly we're running into naked men, and Shirley's thinking we've been mistaken as hookers. The realtor didn't recognize my name, and I guess she figured I might be a prospective buyer since she invited us in to see the place, neon bikinis or not. I was only half listening when she was talking price, and I thought she said the cost of the house was $500,000, which sounded like a hell of a deal for a house that overlooked the beach. Yes, I would say so. A deal so good even my dad would want me to take it. He'd even be more proud if I got a car thrown in. I said, "Well, for that money, would you include the Mercedes?" The agent assured me she would, and she even called us a cab so we could go back to the hotel and considered the purchase. I took her card, we headed back. "Man, that's a great price," I said, looking at the card. "Right up from Jim's place and everything." "How much did you think she said that house cost?" Shirley asked. "Well, she said $500,000, didn't she?" "Try $5 million," Shirley said, shaking her head. I looked back at the place we drove down the long drive to the highway, and that's not even beachfront property. But that's an example of why my dad's in charge of our land deals and not me. Well, you just misheard her. It doesn't mean you couldn't have worked it out. That week was the end of any rest for me for the whole pregnancy. I was book solid. I stayed out on the road until I was 8 months along and could barely waddle across the stage. It was hard. At one point, the baby turned, somehow resting on a nerve, and I couldn't get out of bed. It just knocked me to my knees. Once that pressure eased, I had trouble standing for long periods of time, and I often had to try to do my part of my show sitting on the stool in the middle of the stage. My feet and ankles swelled up, and I started getting that same deep itch on the palm of my hands and soles of my feet that I'd had all those years ago when Dolores Fuller had me out on the Delta Dawn radio tour. It was pure stress, and I did the same thing at 31 that I'd done at 13. I started scratching my hands with my feet with a hairbrush until I rubbed the skin so raw I needed bandages. Finally, I found a medication that put the end to the itching, but the swelling continued. I opened for Hank Jr. that March, and I honestly didn't know if I could make it through the show. In addition to my feet and legs killing me, Hank's crew was completely uninterested in my sound or lighting requirements, and they couldn't have been bothered to help my dad get a sound check. And they couldn't be bothered to help my band get a sound check. Mary Chapin's song, Opening Act, nailed it. When you open for someone, sometimes you feel like grabbing them by the throat and saying, "Hey, you, could I possibly get one tiny bit of respect over here?" I don't know where Hank was or if it made any difference if I found him. He was such a big star that he helicoptered into venues at the last minute a lot of the time. In the back of my mind, I was thinking, do you suppose Hank knows I'm pregnant and he's holding it against me? My pregnancy press release had been sent out, and I made a public announcement on Entertainment Tonight just a week before the concert. One side of me didn't believe Hank could care less about my unwed mother status, and the other side wasn't so sure. I made it through the show. By the time I finished performing, I was ready to get as far away from Hank's people as possible. The experience drove home one thing about an artist employee is if your staff treats people rudely, it reflects on you. That's right. Not the employer. And although I haven't always succeeded, I've tried to drum into the heads of anyone who's representing me on any level. You have to be able to rely on your staff, band, and roadies because they can make or break a show and endear or alienate a fan base. Because I was pregnant, I especially needed people to rely on during those times. There was one band member in particular. We hired a new guy, and I noticed more and more that I turned to see him that the tour ran smoothly. It's not that others were inconsiderate, but this particular fellow seemed to be willing to take charge. He was a gentle, kind man who seemed to understand that I wasn't the old hell-raising, self-sufficient Tanya, and I needed some help out there on the road. Little by little, he became more important to the road show and to me as a friend. I thought he was cute, too, but not only was I pregnant, my dad had an ironclad rule. Do not date band members. We're on chapter 46 now, Termites. It's pretty good, right? But there's not too much more to go. And she's only 30. So this book will take us till what? She's probably 34. And then I'll have to go by the next one if there is another one. I better go to the hospital, Mother, I said. What? Are you in labor? I'm real close, but I'm not going to have her until tomorrow. I bet every one of my doctors is at home watching fireworks with the kids, and I don't want the second team. Mother, LaCosta, and her 2 kids and I were sitting in Dad's Jeep watching the 4th of July fireworks in Brentwood, Tennessee when I started feeling the baby was on her way. We got to Vanderbilt, I checked in, and then we started the countdown. The next morning I was in labor, but not making much progress, so they decided to speed things along and broke my water. They'd given me an epidural, so the full impact of the doctor's words didn't hit me like it would have if I'd been completely alert. Her heart rate's down to 60. Tanya, she's healthy now, but I think the cord's wrapped around her. I'm going to do a C-section. Well, get after it, I said groggily. The next thing I know, Presley, Tanita Tucker, was lying on my chest. She was fabulous. There's really no way for a mother to really describe the feeling that comes over her when she first sees her child, except that she feels a fulfillment and a completion that couldn't be equaled in any other way. Looking back, I wish I'd not even had the epidural because I wish I'd had the full impact of giving birth and seeing the new baby the second it came into the world. Even though you know it's going to hurt, I think you always want to be fully there to fully comprehend what you've done. I know a lot of women that would not agree with that. Looking at Presley made me know what I'd done was right. Honk if you're the father of Tanya Tucker's baby, a Nashville DJ announced on the air July 5th, 1989, as soon as he learned that Presley had been born and we were at Vanderbilt. According to friends of mine, dozens of guys cruised the hospital area and blasted their horns. Speculations about the baby's father went even more wild after Presley was born than it had before. Billy Long made the tabloids as a candidate for Presley's dad. Poor Billy was stunned by the rumors and told reporter he didn't know anything about me being pregnant and certainly wasn't the father. There were plenty of men who were willing to take credit for Presley, though. A lot of my friends joked about it. Every time I run into George Jones, they'd say, "You can't deny it any longer, Tanya. You know that kid is mine." Charlie Pride was always saying, "Be sure and keep it our secret. Don't ever let on the baby's mine." I opened a show for Lee Greenwood in Cleveland when Presley was 5 months old. LaCosta and Presley were both with me, and as usual, LaCosta came out and sang a couple numbers during my song, and then Presley and I joined her on stage for my final number. Lee was standing in the back after a portion of the show and said he wanted to talk something serious over with me, and I agreed, and we sat down. "Look, what would you think about this?" Lee started. "I'd like to take credit for Presley." I thought he was joking and started laughing. "No, I'm serious," he said. "We could call a press conference and announce that I'm the father, take some photos of the 3 of us. It'd be great for our careers." At this point, did he have that song? "And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free." Was this post or pre that song? I about died. "It wouldn't be that great for Presley, though, would it?" I told him and ended the conversation. Hey, I love publicity, too, but that was a little over the top. Now, when Tanya tells you it's over the top, you just got to believe that. Makes you wonder if he'd be willing to pay child support. Later, the road manager swore it all been a joke. Was he serious? You got me. It sure sounded like an earnest suggestion. I went back out on the road, back out on tour 3 weeks after Presley was born. I was a little unsure about taking a baby would work, but a few times I went out with her, I went out without her. I couldn't stand it. I'd lie awake at night while the bus rolled down the road thinking of Presley at home, maybe waking up and wanting to be fed. I knew mother was taking good care of her, but I felt like it should be me there with her. So we put a crib on the bus, and LaCosta and mother came out on the road too. Oh my Lord. When LaCosta came out with us, she was always participated in the show singing Love Train or one of the other favorite releases. The crowd seemed to love the idea of the sisters back together. And then when I bring Presley out towards the end of the show, the crowds went wild. I saw immediately that my fans didn't think less of me for wanting to have her. I wonder, did this guy think about it? Did Ben ever go, that's timing of all this. Maybe I'm the daddy. Who the daddy? You the daddy. All I know is I got to get gone. She complained that only once did I have a fan at one of the shows comment negatively about my single mother status, and all that involved was a woman who brought LaCosta a t-shirt. She explained that if Tanya hadn't had a baby out of wedlock, she might have bought one of hers too. So I lost a t-shirt sale. So be it. Exactly. I did hear that some preachers brought up the fact that I should be a role model, and I was an example of how country music was getting as bad as rock and roll. Since I wasn't there when they were saying it, I don't know if it was true, and I didn't worry about it. Good for her. Good for Tanya. I got to get gone. That's all I know. Termites. What else do I know? Nothing. Nothing at all. Have you seen Project Nim? It's on Amazon Prime. You want to see a really fucked up documentary? Go watch Project Nim. I talk about it on my podcast if you'd like to hear more about it. It's been out there for a while, but I didn't see it till just recently. All right, termites. We're going to put you all down now. Get your coolest summer sheet. It's still hot out there for most of us, especially California termites. The whole goddamn place is on fire. I have friends out there. I'm like, run for your lives. Run for your lives. 2 hurricanes coming up on the Gulf. Maybe. They might not be hurricanes. Talk about that on the podcast too. All right, termites. This is our little, I'm glad I have this. I'm glad I have the podcast. I like both termites. Both are termites. You're the original termite. So this second group, we'll see how loyal they are. Feel free to comment on anything. Please be nice. And with that, I got to get going. So I'm going to say my little send-off to you guys. Night-night, termites.